We are in the St. Charles Cemetery, the Bronx, New York. We are here to visit a pioneer music history, Frankie Lymon. Now, who is Frankie Lymon? Now, if you know music, you have musical taste. You know Frankie Lymon. Itty bitty pretty one. No, 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 no. A bad take, I know. Bad singing, I know. But that's from his later years when he was a single artist. Itty bitty pretty one. Then there was also, when you see the grave of Frankie Lymon, then you also see, you remember him probably most likely from Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Why do they fall in love? Why do they? Da, na, 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 na. That's Frankie and the Teenagers. Exactly. That was that group. Horrible take. I would plop in the video clip of that song, but we'll get a copyright, so we can't do that. So Frankie Lymon, Itty Bitty Pretty One, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, from Frankie and the Teenagers. He had two types of career, both obviously musical act and a solo career as well. So Frankie Lymon was born in Harlem, New York. We're gonna both fast forward here, and by the way, Frankie's parents, Howard and Jeanette, sang in the gospel group, the Harlemaires. Maybe kind of would explain why Frankie had so much talent. So we fast forward to the age of 12 in 1954 for Frankie, when he heard a local doo-wop group known as the Coupe de Villes at a school talent show. He became friends with the lead singer, Herman Santiago, and he eventually became a member of the group, now calling itself the Ermines and the Premiers. This is the surrounding area of the cemetery here, of Mr. Lymon's grave, right by one of the entrances. So Dennis Jackson was of Columbus, Georgia, was one of the main influences in Frankie's life. His personal donation of $500 helped start Frankie's career. One day in 1955, a neighbor gave the Premiers several love letters that had been written to him by his girlfriend, hoping to give the boys inspiration to write their own songs. Merchant and Santiago adopted one of the letters into a song called Why Do Fools Fall in Love? The Premiers, now calling themselves the Teenagers, got their first shot at fame after impressing Richard Barrett, who was a singer with the Valentines. Barrett, in turn, got the group an audition with record producer George Goldner. On the day of the group's audition, original lead singer Santiago was late. Lymon stepped up and told Goldner that he knew the part because he helped write the song. The disc jockeys always called them Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers. Goldner signed the group to G Records, and Why Do Fools Fall in Love became its first single in 1956. The single peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Pop Singles chart, topped the Billboard R&B Singles chart for 5 weeks. 4 other top 10 R&B singles followed over the next year or so. I Want You to Be My Girl, I Promise to Remember, We Can Explain, The ABCs of Love, and I'm Not a Juvenile Delinquent. I Want You to Be My Girl gave the band its second pop hit, reaching number 13 on the national Billboard 100 chart. I love you and I want you to be my girl. You know that song. Again, I am also bad at singing. But all good things come to an end, and Frankie, Lymon, and the Teenagers eventually broke up in 1957. So in 1957, when they broke up, Goldner began pushing Lymon as a solo act, giving him solo spots in the show on the London Palladium. Pre-recorded tapes. He began performing with backing from pre-recorded tapes. The group's last single, Goody Goody, backed with Creation of Love, initially retained the Frankie, Lymon, and the Teenagers credit, but they were actually solo recordings. As a solo artist, Lymon was not nearly as successful as he had been with the Teenagers. He eventually had moved to Roulette Records. In an episode on 1957, Alan Freed's ABC TV show The Big Beat, Lymon began dancing with a white teenage girl while he was performing. His actions caused a scandal, particularly among Southern TV station owners, and The Big Beat was subsequently canceled. Lymon's slowly declining sales fell sharply in the early 1960s. His highest charting solo hit was the cover, not his own song now, cover of Bob Day's Little Bitty Pretty One. Little Bitty Pretty One, na 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 na. Peaked at number 58 on the top 100 pop charts in 1960. And which had been recorded in 1957. Unfortunately, Frankie was addicted to heroin since the age of 15. And his performing career went into decline because of his addiction. He was introduced to heroin by a woman twice his age. 1961, Roulette, which was the record company now run by Morris Levy, ended their contract with Lymon, and he entered a drug rehab program. After losing Lymon, the Teenagers went through a string of replacement singers. And eventually the Teenagers had also been released. The Teenagers briefly reunited with Lymon in 1965, but that was not successful. Frankie's last kind of television performance was in 1965. Remember, he was only 22 or 23 at that time. It was on a Hollywood A Go-Go was the show, and he lip-synced to the recording of Why Do Fools Fall in Love. He lip-synced to his 13-year-old self, again, singing Why Do Fools Fall in Love. So in 1966, he was arrested on heroin charge. Remember, heroin just been following Frankie all his life. He was drafted into the United States Army in lieu of a jail sentence. He reported to Fort Gordon, Georgia, near Augusta, Georgia, for training. While in the Augusta area, Lymon met and fell in love with Emira Eagle, a school teacher at Hornsby Elementary. The two wed in 1967, and Lymon repeatedly went AWOL to secure gigs at a small southern club. he was dishonorably discharged from the Army. And at that point, Lymon moved into his wife's home, and he continued to perform sporadically, traveling to New York in 1968. He was signed to a Big Apple label. This was by manager Sam Bray. Roulette Records expressed interest in releasing Lymon records in conjunction with Big Apple, scheduled a recording session for February 28th. So that meeting was scheduled for February 28th, 1968. Unfortunately, Frankie died on February 27th of 1968. He was found, unfortunately, he was ruled to be a heroin overdose at the age of 25 on the floor of his grandmother's bathroom with a syringe by his side. Frankie Lymon continued to make the news even after his death. After Diana Ross returned Why Do Fools Fall in Love to the top 10 in 1981, a major controversy concerning Lymon's estate ensued. You had Zola Taylor, Elizabeth Waters, and Elmira Eagle each approached Morris Levy, who had the possession of Lymon's copyrights and his royalties, claiming to be Lymon's rightful widow. The problem was Frankie had neglected to divorce any of them. The complex issue resulted in lawsuits and counter-lawsuits, and in 1968, the first of several court cases concerning the ownership of Lymon's estate began. So it was a lot of webs and deception and what's what that was trying to be untangled. Who was indeed the lawful Miss Lymon was complicated by issues. Wife Waters was already married when she married Lymon. She had separated from her husband, but the divorce was finalized in 1965 after she married Lymon in Mexico. After she had married Lymon, right? So then you have Taylor, who claimed to have married Lymon in Mexico in 1965, but could not produce no acceptable evidence of their union. Then you have Lymon's marriage to Eagle, on the other hand, was properly documented as having taken place at a Baptist church in Augusta, Georgia in 1967. However, the singer was still apparently twice married and never divorced when he married Eagle. The first decision was made in Waters' favor. Eagle appealed, and in 1989, the Appellate Division of the New York State Supreme Court reversed the original decision and awarded Lymon's estate to Eagle. However, the details of the case brought about another issue, whether mobster Morris Levy was deserving of the songwriting co-credit on Why Do Fools Fall in Love. Although early single releases of Why Do Fools Fall in Love credit Frankie Lymon, Herman Sandiego, and Jimmy Merchant as co-writers, later releases and cover versions were attributed to Lymon and George Goldner. When Goldner sold his music companies to Morris Levy in 1959, Levy's name began to appearing as co-writer of Why Do Fools Fall in Love, in place of Goldner's. Lymon was never paid for his songwriting royalties during his lifetime. One result of Elmira Eagle's legal victory was that Lymon's estate could finally begin receiving monetary compensation from his hit songs and success. In 1987, Herman Santiago and Jimmy Merchant, both by then poor, sued Morris Levy for their songwriting credits. In December of 1992, the United States federal courts ruled that Santiago and Merchant were co-authors of that song, Why the Fools Fall in Love. However, in 96, the ruling was reversed based on the statute of limitations. As of right now, authorship of this song belongs to Frankie Lymon and Morris Levy. A story. Rest in peace, Frankie Lymon.